to order. It's 5:30 p.m. Monday, May 5th, 2025. Roll call. So, City Manager,
Present.
Commissioner Toby,
Present.
Commissioner Bridges, Commissioner Fields,
Present.
Commissioner McCray,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks,
Present.
Commissioner Lumpkins,
Present.
Commissioner Velez.
Present.
For city business today, our first item of business in the budget is the budget workshop. I will now turn it over to the city manager, Mr. Taylor, to go over budget workshop.
Okay, one of the only items that I was asked to look into since the initial budget presentation was looking at outside water rates that we had proposed. Or let me go back to, we had proposed 3% across the board rate increase as was recommended by the Ralph Tillis study from a year ago. You asked us to look into just having an outside, increasing the outside rate, leaving the inside the city rate. There's only 180 outside the city water users. And so if you can imagine trying to offset that is going to make it pretty high. In fact, it's about a 200% increase to outside the city users, which would include industry as well as residential. There would be, I'd have some concern whether the state statute would even permit that high increase. I've been doing some research on it, but there's a lot of statutes that revolve around utilities that I feel like I need to do some more if you wanted to try to go that route. But also wanted to let you know that is a very big number for those rate users.
And you said it would be how much?
200% increase.
If I may, I understand that's, you're right. We can't do that, but we can do something still
You
increase
certainly
those
can.
rate. Additionally, the bulk, the containers. Well, you're gonna get to that, right? The bulk,
I can address that.
the bulk containers, the tankers that take water, they're what, $22 a gallon,
1,000 gallons.
1,000 gallons. Me personally, I don't know anybody else feel we can put some more on that. And besides that, we need to control what we have in the areas. If we can do it legally, I guess we get the fire chief and police chief and public works director to give their opinion. We should be able to lock the hydrants on the outside that everybody's been known to take on. And we should be, I think the bulk should go from 22 to, I think they mind paying $30 for 1,000 gallons.
And there also is a flat fee that goes with it. So I think it's $20 flat fee and then $22 per 1,000 gallons. So that's the charges that go in bulk water. So I guess to kind of circle back for a second, on the fees, we can certainly look into some type of hybrid if you wanted to do that, or if you didn't want to raise rates at all, we could look at adjusting the budget to that. Just realize that at some point that will need to take place. So we could do that as well if you wanted us to do that for next time, and we could send that out to you ahead of time.
The rates, adjusting the budget is going to be a little difficult, as we know we have a tight budget situation. We can't put a 200%. How come you're not Commissioner Toby?
My understanding was that some of the loans we got a couple of years ago were contingent on raising our rates.
Which you
our
did.
water rates, which we did at the time.
Yeah.
Is that still in force? That rate,
Oh yeah.
that's still in force.
Yeah, so, last year's rate increase,
Yeah.
still in, and it's still in the budget.
Yeah,
So, which was, I think, about 10 or 12% last year. And that was to catch up from some prior year
yeah,
of not doing it incrementally.
yeah. I'm not sure whether some of the commissioners knew about that it was a compulsory increase,
Right.
contingent on our 0% loans or something like that, so I want you to realise we didn't have any choice about it.
No, we don't have any choice in that. You're right, Commissioner Toby. But I still think if we increase some of these outside rates, some of these bulk rates, and then whatever is left over, if we have to increase our citizens maybe 1.52%, that I didn't see that, but we got to do our means to the folks that are not paying city taxes.
Right.
We are paying the bulk of city taxes, and Stovall, I don't know what's the contract with Stovall. That's another issue that needs to be addressed too.
Would you like for us to target a maximum inside the city increase and then adjust the budget around? So, for example, if you want to say 1.5%, and then we could work around to try to make up these other, for either other revenue enhancements or reductions in the budget. We could do that if you would want us to do that.
I think you should come with some scenarios and let us see a couple of scenarios, what's better for our citizens here.
I would like to see,
Yeah.
because of the national increase on everything, I would like to see us do as least harm to our citizens as possible. So I agree with the mayor. Give us 3 scenarios. If we do this, this will happen. If we do this, this will happen. If we do this, this will happen. And let I know everything is going up, but for our citizens that are on fixed income, I want us to have the least impact we can, if at all possible, and still maintain our budget. So some scenarios.
We can do that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a good idea.
Mr. Lionel was coming. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I remember, was it a few years ago, we had talked about and looked into rate increases contingent on usage. You know, so if somebody not necessarily household, but corporation or something, the rate is increased if they use X amount of gallons. I know some kind of study, or we were looking into that.
Well, the Ralph Tiller study also addressed that as well.
Yeah.
And so it was a hybrid of
Right.
usage and base rate. The reason you would do something like this to the base rate is because it's consistent. You know what it's going to be. The usage could be variable just depending on what type of year you have. So you certainly could do that. Usage rate increase, but just know that it's more variable. I mean, so.
I would prefer the base rate raised, because at least it's something as a known factor rather than.
What's the percentage that we raised last year?
It was around 12,
And what's the percentage that you proposed this year?
3.
That's what the study says, 3%.
Let's also keep in mind, not only are there citizens outside of the city limits that don't pay taxes, but we also have industries that get water from us that don't pay city taxes.
That's what we just talked
So, that's definitely, because a lot of those industries use a lot of water. And if they're not paying tax revenue, then they definitely need to be considered and reevaluated.
But we've got to do that with consideration with, didn't you say that you have to check into the guidelines?
Yeah, in terms of outside in general. I certainly want to, and we could come back with a scenario that if you just wanted to try to do commercial use, we could look at that, or industrial use, we could certainly look at that. That could be one scenario.
Mhm.
200% is unacceptable.
Yeah, that's too much.
That's just unacceptable.
There's a citizen that brought, I think he addressed the email myself, maybe the entire board, I don't know, to you, maybe the city manager. And they had a good recommendation. We have a lot of vacant lots that they have water and houses that are closed, basically abandoned, and they have water lines attached to them. And he recommended a certain percent of basic free for everyone that has water line going to your property. I think we talked about that. We probably need to look at that, what he's saying, because you may have 200 lots here, 200 homes, or maybe I'm not exaggerating that. They are in the city limits and they are attached to the water and sewer service. And because nobody's there, they pay 0%. Nothing. They don't pay anything, but there is a maintenance cost that we pay for maintaining everything, or streets or sewer line or water lines. And he's proposing that, he suggested that we should look at that for those places that we should have a basic rate, a flat rate, straight across the board in the city. That you know, if you're not using your flat rate, it's gonna be, if it's $40, $30, that should be your flat rate. If it's legal to do that.
I'll have to look into that. I will. That was the only thing that I was requested to look into. So if there's anything you would like to discuss or look into, then certainly be glad to do that.
We talked about also metering the potable water that's being taken to make sure we can control that. That's why I said we have to look and see if the 3 department heads give us recommendation on that. How can we control it? If we can lock the fire hydrants that we know they're going to, and as long as they are first responders, which would be fire, police, and public works, have access to keys to remove those locks, I think we should be covered legally.
Well, I think also too, there would be a practicality to that as well. I certainly could have them address it, certainly at the next meeting, if you would like us to do that, give them time to look at the areas of concern and what that would cost, and they could be prepared for that. We could add that as a discussion item at the next meeting, if you'd like.
Question. Do we know how many of these people use that water on a regular basis, and take that water on a regular basis? Usually that's like 5 companies or landscapers or 4 people, 6, 7.
Well, I mean, there's a range of who uses it. It's roughly anywhere between 400 and 600,000 gallons annually, which generates, I believe, somewhere between $13,000 and $16,000 a year. So we certainly could buy that device, and I think the return on investment's about 4.5 years, something like that. So I mean, I don't have it off the top of my head, but
Okay.
I can certainly bring that to you as well. But so we know what we're collecting now. So essentially, you would want to try to double that. Of course, now the other thing is fairness too. So if you want to do that, just to make sure everybody gets in there, and there's something to be said for that. So there's 2 ways of looking at it. You look at it from your return on investment, or you look at it just from fairness to everybody. So
I think what the mayor's getting at as well, and I've seen it, probably some landscapers or something that come along and just take the water without paying their share. I mean, I'm sure that goes on.
We gotta look as
Not saying landscapers,
as we start to grow, and when we get our public safety building, we may not have that much focus on the fire department down there as they move to the main building. And again, I don't know what's going to be. I haven't talked to the fire chief what type of operation scenario, or the police chief what kind of operation scenario once we get our public safety building. But we just don't want to do it for now. We got to look what's coming down the road. Because down the road we may have nobody out there other than the ABC store. And as we go, there's going to be more use of taking water.
yeah, I mean, that's certainly something to look at, how to manage it going, especially once that comes to fruition. Yeah, that could be a change in how we handle that for sure.
that it?
That's it. We can move on next item.
Okay, sir. The next item. Okay, second business is items to set the agenda for Tuesday, May 13th board meeting. The topics will be we're gonna have a National Police Week next week. On our police department. Then we'll move to consider contracting with Stephen F. Austin for administration, training, and project oversight of the CDBG revitalization grant number 22 C20. Yeah, I'll get my test. C4129. The contract amount will not exceed $12,000 to be paid as specified in the contract. The purpose of admin training is for the purpose of administrating future CDBG grants in the House. The staff is recommending approval for that. Can we get a little more, I guess Mrs. Hart can give us a little more education on this item?
Yes, sir. So this item, we were awarded $950,000 in CDBG funds, which is two grants. This is one in particular that we were awarded $950,000. And the admin field is dwindling down, and so we're preparing to start doing it ourselves. And so Mr. Austin is administering the other grant that I just alluded to for $950,000, and we're going to try to have these going at the same time. So what better person to train under than this? Mr. Austin has gotten us $3.5 million in CDBG funds, so I'll be training under him. And again, the idea is for me to get this training and we'll do it in-house and save money.
So that'd be you and your staff,
Yes.
your sister. Okay, great. That's good insight. Okay, I had skipped item 5.2. I gotta go back. 5.1. Consider adopting demolition ordinance for 510 Hicks Mill Road, owned by Kenyatta and Jeremy Allen. The structure is in poor condition with a value of let's say roughly $10,000, and the land value of $15.5 thousand. The structure has been vacant for 11 years and beyond repair. Hearing was held with owner on December 6, 2024, and finding of fact was issued on January 9, 2025. Staff recommends adopting the demolition ordinance for this property. Everybody knows where that property is at, right? There's 4 new buildings right down there, and it's just stuck right in front of them.
Yeah.
And it's a big eyesore and it's falling apart.
Yep.
The next item will be 5.2. Consider calling for a public hearing to be held for the June 10th meeting for rezoning request from Carolyn Noblin at 413 Noblin Road to rezone 55 plus acres for IPD from Industrial Park District to residential agriculture located in Noblin Road, parcel, whatever the numbers are, 517-874-002. Rezoning request consisting of 55 plus acres located on Noblin Road. Call for public hearing for this rezoning. Next item will be 5.3. Consider
You
contract.
just did
That's
that one.
done, man.
Okay, thank you. Next one, 5.4. Consider contracting with Todd Hefner for rehabilitation specialist service for the CDBG grant. Rehab specialists needed for all CDBG revitalization grants. Todd has been providing this service for the past 2 revitalization grant, and it will be beneficial to continue on with the service. I think Ms. Hart just explained some of that to us. The staff recommends approval of rehab specialist proposal as outlined. Item 5.5, consider approving the request for the Oxford Loop subdivision change of ingress egress map of modification of outer loop and Highway 96 subdivision. Staff recommend approving the request for change of ingress, egress from the Oxford Loop subdivision. Item 5.6, consider calling for public hearing to receive citizen input on the use of the city property on Williamsboro Street, date to be determined. Everybody's aware about that with that comment, right? Everybody knows about what's going on there.
The only one I haven't been able to have a discussion with is Commissioner Bridges, which I will have a discussion with him after the agenda meeting.
Okay. Then we 5.7, consider approving contract with Granville County School Districts for a school resource officer. Contract will be attached when the final agenda is published. Staff recommends approving the contract for the SRO. Item 5.8, consider adopting a resolution opposing SB 688 and HB 765. Everybody know what these things are?
House bill.
House bill.
House bill.
House bill and Senate bill are
Yeah.
both attached, so you guys have
Yeah,
a
we
chance
got
to
them.
read them.
Right.
Yeah, we got it.
Just about every municipality has,
Yep.
has accepted and done this same step. Submitted a resolution. Next item will be 6, consent agenda. Consent items will be adopted with a single motion, second, and vote unless a request of removal from the consent agenda is heard from a council member. Accept the March 2025 financial report and approve the April 7th and 15th board meeting. So that's basically all we have here. I think we have some couple legal matters we want to address to the board members that we should adjourn to closed session. Should be very short.
I'm okay with that if you like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get a motion for that?
Second?
Did I second?
Second.
We'll adjourn into closed session. Legal matters.
Extra. Put it all over.
Can I,